All right. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ruffin, and today I'm going to rank the Planet of the Apes movies. I meant to do this a little while back when the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie. Didn't get around to it, and I kind of realized, man, this is a lot of movies. I don't even know. I didn't realize there were so many of these, but I always kind of wanted to go back and watch these old ones. And I gotta say, I don't really think any of these are bad necessarily. So I don't know if they're gonna go into watch at your own risk. It's on here because that's my little rating system, but and I actually haven't even really rated these yet. I mean, I kind of just watched them, and so I'm just gonna kind of do it off the cuff today. So
The Surrealist McCoy.
but yeah, just some overall things on this. There's two distinct like eras. There's the old ones that the first one came out in the 60s, and then the rest are in the 70s, and then there's the newer ones that started in the teens, more recent with the Andy Serkis. Big kind of difference there is that the old ones have more emphasis on the writing. Like you could see that they would really stick on certain lines that the characters would say, like almost like repeat it a few times, and it just seems like they really stress the writing and the characters and stuff, because I think back then they couldn't rely on the spectacle, and that's I was gonna say. And the new ones is more the spectacle and the effects and just crazy out there stuff. And that's not to say that there isn't character stuff in those too. I almost think the newer ones are almost more emotional, maybe. I think, and maybe that's just because these are older movies and it's not translating the same way or something. But I connect more emotionally to the newer ones, but the older ones is more heavy on like the themes, sociological things that it's talking about is a little more going on with that, a little more thought provoking than the newer ones. So it's like there's kind of pluses and minuses to both eras. I really like both of them. Going back through these older ones. I mean, like the old ones are really fun to watch. I mean, I just think Well, we'll get into it. Let me just go ahead and start on my first one. I'm gonna go chronological. Give me some little thoughts, and then I'm gonna try to decide where they're gonna go in this 4-tier system I got here. This is kind of what Miriam and I have been using for our movie ratings. So I don't even know, since we've been doing the movies thing, I don't know if I've ever said anything was watch at your own risk. I mean, I could think of some on my head now, but yeah. Anyways, so we got the first Planet of the Apes movie. Boom. So this is one that's kind of like, as a kid, I knew of it. I think even before I saw it. So I knew on the Simpsons they make a reference to it, and I think anything that gets referenced on the Simpsons is sort of like it's just in the pop culture. Like we've all seen that scene of when he sees the Statue of Liberty, and it's like spoiler alert. It's like a movie from the '60s, but I feel like yeah, I kind of knew of it, and I know I saw it probably when I was a kid or something, but just going back now and watching it, I mean, it's like obviously it's a classic, but it's just crazy. I just wish I could go back in time and see what people thought. Just as far as the twist at the end of, oh, he's actually on Earth. He the whole time that they think they've gone in space, and that they've gone through some sort of space anomaly, and they've ended up on this distant planet or something like that. And it just that's kind of a funny. I don't know if they would not do this as much in a movie now, where okay, if you think that you're on an alien planet, then you're running into other Homo sapiens and like apes, and these things are kind of Earth-like creatures. And it's like in this older movie, it's like they don't even question that. Like he still thinks he's on an alien planet the whole movie, until the very end where he sees the Statue of Liberty. So I don't. It's just a funny thing to me. It's like you didn't think for a second that you might be on Earth, but And I do like this thing that, in a recent movie like Interstellar did, where on Earth we have this certain relationship to time, and there's 365 days and all that kind of stuff. But when you go out in space and time starts to move differently, and I thought that was cool. Just the fact that like these guys are on this ship, and then they look at the clock and it's like, oh, this is what the year it is on Earth. I will say the first one and second one, they kind of talk about that. It's a very dark idea that everyone that you knew, your family, your friends, everything is completely gone. Like you're just so far into the future that, and it's funny. Like Charlton Heston, his character, he's kind of being kind of a dick about it to the other guy. Also, I gotta say, like, what's up with him and Charlton Heston's always in these post-apocalyptic things, like Omega Man, and that's a funny one too, because in that one he doesn't seem to be bothered by being the last man on Earth, and in this one it's like he's like, just get over it, man. Your family and everybody's dead. Like, just deal with it. He's like talking to the other guy like that, but yeah, I mean, to me, watching it, obviously, I already knew the twist, and then, but again, I want to go back and I want to know, did people not see the twist coming, or did they? Because to me, when he at the beginning when he says, "Oh, this is what year it is on Earth," I've sort of like, yeah, I've seen Interstellar and I've seen other things, so I'm kind of like going like, and I already know the twist going into it, but I feel like, oh, did that give it away? To some people, or is it just because this is such an older sci-fi thing and we hadn't really done a million Star Trek episodes and a million of these things? Did people not even get that was like foreshadowing? Like where they say what year it is on Earth. But yeah, there's just some cool parts in this. Kind of like, I think, kind of talking about religion a little bit, because Dr. Zayas is like the minister of science, and they don't want to listen to anything. There's a scene where they, the one guy's like, see no evil, doing that whole thing, and that's pretty cool little imagery thing. Obviously, the end with the Statue of Liberty thing is it's just iconic, and you got like, you damn dirty ape, and all this kind of stuff. It's really cool. I really like this one. And it's kind of funny. Like Nova, she's the woman that's in this one and the second one. And I know it's kind of like part of the whole thing is that they don't talk and everything, but it's just funny watching it now, because it's like, I don't know if they would make a movie like that where like there's just like a woman that didn't talk like the whole time, and it's not it's not that weird. It's just kind of like, yeah, like later on in this list with the newer movie, I kind of had thought like, well, this lady's got to talk because this is like a new movie, and but just kind of like that damsel kind of character. It's just kind of like, oh, like they're just kind of blowing in the wind, and like Charlton Heston, and it's like funny because he's like so much smarter as well, and he's like, oh yes, we'll have kids and we'll teach them to talk, and I don't know, it's just something about her characters just strikes me as like, we wouldn't do that nowadays if we made a movie, and they didn't in the most recent one. So, but you'll get that later. But yeah, that there is a woman in the new one, and it seems like she doesn't talk, but spoiler alert, she does. But anyways, so this one, I think, just because it is so influential, such a classic, and this is before Star Wars, and this is like a whole franchise that came out of this, and Rod Sterling on here, and I mean, this is the kind of sci-fi that I like watching, older sci-fi, because we're in a sci-fi time now to them. If they could see nowadays, just like this and Star Trek and those types of things that are older, but it's more they're dealing with the concepts, and it's just very neat to me, just watching something like that. So I think just the fact that this one started it all off, and I think because of that, I'm gonna have to give it a golden ticket rating. I don't know if I'm gonna talk about every movie that much. I mean, that just kind of probably shows you why it's a golden ticket, because that movie just gets me thinking. It was real good. Okay, gotta get something to drink. Okie dokie. So Beneath the Planet of the Apes, I had no idea what to expect with this, and this is just crazy. I did not know. I just didn't. I knew that there was obviously when I was starting this, I saw that there was five Planet of the Apes in movies in the old era, and but I had no idea what was going on with this. Just this kind of thing that old movies did back then, where it's like they show like the last part of the old movie at the beginning of the new movie. My brain went off on a tangent about that because I'm thinking, it's probably because they didn't really have everybody didn't have tapes and DVDs and things, and so like it would probably be like a long time before you saw that next one, and then you're probably going like, what happened? And you probably don't remember. So they probably put that in there for that reason, and so that's probably why we don't do it now. And then I do think in newer movies, if they show any percentage of an older movie like that, it's usually like the person is having a panic attack, and it's like whoosh, it's like flashes of like a panic attack, and they barely show it. And I don't know. I'd love to ask. I don't know. I'm not in the film industry, but it just seems like okay. Is it looked at as lazy to use footage from an old movie because it's like no, this is a new thing. It needs to be close to 100% brand new art as possible or something like that. But I think it's probably both of those things. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's just interesting. It's like every time I watch like Rocky or those movies, it's like the end of Rocky 1 and they're going to the hospital. And then I feel like all of those movies just show like the whole entire last fight basically of each of those. And but anyways, well, yeah, so this one, we got another astronaut, and he's looking for Charlton Heston, and this guy looks kind of like Charlton Heston, and he's kind of doing his voice like him, and he's just like, those, there's there. Why is Charlton Heston always looking into the sun? And well, it's just it just makes me think of Wayne's World where they had the actor, and anyway. They brought in Charlton Heston and he did that same delivery. But this guy's doing an impression of him, I think, a little bit, and then so he meets up with Nova, the woman that doesn't talk, but it's just I didn't know what was going on with this. It's like they show Charlton Heston's character Taylor, and he's riding somewhere with Nova, and then there's like a big thing of fire, and then there's like a huge lightning thing, and then there's an earthquake, and then he like phases through a rock wall thing or something, and then I'm going like, okay, that's weak, because I knew he was gonna get killed off or he wasn't really gonna be in it or something, but I didn't know how they were gonna do it. I saw him phase through this wall, and I'm like, is that it? That's all? And but anyways, the explanation is that there's these. I don't know if they're supposed to be aliens or if they're mutants, but these people underground, and they can make people like hallucinate almost where you think it's real and make you feel pain, but really you're just imagining the pain, and they can put people in these things, and apparently these were like not real hallucinations. That's what I'm saying. This thing is crazy, man. There's this they're like an underground cult, and they worship a nuclear bomb, and it's like a giant bullet, and they call it like the holy weapon of peace, and which I mean is a lot of these movies do talk about that, about guns, and that's like the power, and kind of like how human beings are evil because of things like guns, and these kind of that's kind of like a theme that kind of goes through some of these. But these guys are like worshiping this giant like bullet, and yeah, it's crazy. I mean, in this one they really start talking about kind of like the racism among the different apes, and the orangutans and the gorillas and the chimps. That's when they start really talking about that. But yeah, I mean, this one's just crazy. But it's a lot of fun. I just I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know this is like kind of the more. I mean, they're all sci-fi, but this one is kind of the most out there sci-fi kind of adventure. But yeah, nothing bad to say about it. I just don't know if it's I think it's more of like a full price. I don't know if it's like great. But it's definitely entertaining. I mean, all these movies are are entertaining. I think, especially the old ones. It's just little like just the lines that they say. It'd be just really cool stuff. But yeah. Let me put it in full price. Beneath the Planet of the Apes. All right, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Okay, yeah. So spoiler alert: at the end of the last one, Beneath, where the with the crazy cult people and the giant bullet, that ends up the guy that's doing the Charlton Heston impression and Charlton Heston. They both die. Everybody dies because they shoot that big nuclear bullet thing, and Earth is destroyed. And in this movie, apparently Cornelius and Zira, who were in the first one or in the first two, they help out Taylor and then the other astronaut guy. They're cool. They're good. They're nice to the humans. But apparently they escaped. They went on a spaceship and they're flying. I guess they flew backwards through whatever the space anomaly to go back in time. Kind of, so they did the opposite of what the human astronauts did. So they're leaving as Earth is getting blowed up, and then they go back in time to the 1970s or whatever. And this one is kind of like a comedy to me. I mean, I was laughing a lot. You know what I mean? It's just right off the bat. These apes get out of the spaceship, and they're all official people showing up, and then something happens where I guess they offer them food or something, and then they're just like, "Oh, we're vegetarian," and the guy's just like, "Ugh." He just judges them so hard for being vegetarian, and then right off the bat, I kind of was like, "Okay, this is just a funny, like, kind of comedy type of thing." But I really like this one. But it's like there's only those two apes in the real world of like the 1970s, and so it's kind of like that fish out of water thing, and like Zira drinks wine and she's never had that before, and she gets a little loosey goosey with the way she talks, and they're trying to kind of keep it secret that where they come from, they kind of rule over the humans, and that she would do experiments on the humans, and they're kind of trying to don't tell everything. But then they get her drunk and she starts saying this stuff, but basically they're also trying to keep it a secret that the Earth gets nuked and everybody, the world gets destroyed. But all that ends up coming out, and Zira's pregnant. Cornelius and Zira, they have a little baby coming, and there's some people within the government that want to kill the baby, and then so it becomes about just like saving the baby. They end up at the end they switch the baby, and that's another thing where I'm like, I really wonder, like, did people see that coming or not? Because I kind of obviously saw it coming. I mean, I know that there's 2 more movies after this. This whole explanation is kind of one of those time loop paradox things, right? So because this baby smart ape that can talk is born back in this time, that's what creates this time loop, right? Because they had to go back in time to put him there, and whatever. So we'll get more into that in some of these other movies, but not the most watertight thing. I mean, I guess maybe I'm kind of a little picky with time travel stuff too. It's like I'm kind of like, really. but yeah, they meet this circus guy and he helps them switch the babies out, because at the end of this, spoiler alert, the other little baby gets shot and they both get shot. So that's kind of the end of them. They're kind of Cornelius and Zira. They're kind of in all 3 of these first 3, and then the next 2 are going to be more about Caesar, who's the little baby. But yeah, just this one has a lot of good, like, kind of comedy writing, and president, the guy that plays the president, he just has a really good dialogue and stuff. I can't remember any of it, but it was like, man, this guy's got bars, But it's kind of, a little bit of foreshadowing. There's a scene where Cornelius is talking about their prehistory and this plague that would kill all the dogs and cats, and then one day there would be a ape that would say, no. And I'm like, oh, that kind of sounds familiar, from the reboot series. Kind of a similar thing happens. Yeah, so whenever he's doing this whole speech about their prehistory and all that stuff, I'm like, wow, and then the movies after this, they actually kind of show this stuff. So I don't know. I think the time loop logic gap thing, but I do kind of like the lore of this. Just the whole, like there's a disease that wipes out dogs and cats, and then we go to apes to be our pets, and then because they're smarter, they start doing jobs, and they kind of become like slaves. In the note, they just continue to touch on that too. But I think this is another good one, but not on the level of the first one, I don't think. I think I like Beneath the Planet of the Apes a little more than this, because that one's just crazy. It's got them alien mutant, whatever they are, people, and it's just crazy. So this one's just more like okay, it's like a funny little comedy or whatever. It's like those. I feel like there was like a Superman movie with the Christopher Reeve that it was like just like a weird comedy or something. This kind of feels like that, where it's like slightly out of place, but it does have the stakes and drama to it as well. But anyways, the next one's called Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. I always love all these titles. It's like the thing of the thing of the thing of the Planet of the Apes. It's like, how many words are in this title? This one and the fifth one are kind of like the Caesar duology of the older movies. The little smart baby ape that from the last movie got switched with the other one. The other little dude got shot, but this guy gets raised by that circus dude that helped them in the last movie. They show all these apes being trained how to pour like a glass of water or do this and that, and then they scold them very harshly when they mess up, and so they're just trying to teach all these apes these things, and they're kind of like these servants slash pets, part of the government called ape management. Just a lot of like crazy stuff. The circus guy gets kidnapped, and so Caesar has to kind of pretend to be dumb and he among his own kind. But you see that the apes are very quick to like trust him. I think they kind of see that he's smart, and they're getting ready to like steal his banana, and then he gives everybody a little piece of the banana, and then they're kind of like, oh yeah. And as the movie goes on, Caesar's in this ape management facility, but he'll kind of go around, and then the other apes will be like, oh, like, they already like kind of looking to him as a leader, because I think he treats them with respect, but he is smarter. I think they can tell he's much smarter than them. But they have a scene where it's like, oh, you need to pick your own name. Caesar opens the book, and he picks his name, Caesar. But yeah, the circus guy, they're trying to grill him. They're trying to ask him basically. They basically know that his ape is Cornelius and Zira's, that's the same little ape, but he doesn't tell them, and he jumps out the window, and it's just funny. Like deaths in these old movies are just kind of funny. Like they happen so fast, and then it's almost like is this supposed to be funny? But I think it's just a different kind of thing. You know what I mean? But this one does have a little bit more. Well, I don't want to say gore, but it's kind of they shoot people, and then it'll be like kind of instant blood, but it's kind of like got a brutal kind of vibe. I mean, it's like when you watch Dawn of the Dead, it has that real bright red blood. I don't know, something about that. It's like, eesh. But yeah, circus dude just jumps out the window. There's this guy McDonald. He's cool. He respects Caesar. He lets him go. They kind of have some back and forth things that are kind of interesting. I mean, he's kind of Caesar's like appealing to him. He's a black man, and he's telling him, you must understand more than anyone. We could never be free until this and that, and he's like, And at the end, Caesar gives this killer speech. He's like, we're gonna do this and that, and the guy McDonald's like, what right do you have, and all this stuff, and he says something like, it's the slave's right to punish their persecutors, and it's just like, okay, like, they really went there, because like I said, the newer ones, they don't really get into that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. It just, this is like, kind of on the nose or whatever, but I mean, I'm cool with it. I think it's interesting, you know what I mean? And I think, but if you're the kind of person that's afraid of woke and whatever, then, you're probably not going to like it, but I thought it was cool. Just the acting of the apes in these movies, in these older ones, with the makeup, it just really comes through, like in their eyes, and then like, oh. And this dude that does Caesar, I mean, he's just really good, and him and the guy McDonald, I just like those scenes at the very end, And then the earlier scene where McDonald kind of lets him go. I just these parts are really good. But yeah, I can't put them in all in Golden Ticket because that would kind of, because then Golden Ticket doesn't mean anything. So I think this is a full price, but I really like it. Yeah, and a lot of these are first time watches. I might put it in front of Beneath the Planet of the Apes just because of the like the sociological stuff. I don't know. It's just kind of it's spicy. So I think that makes it kind of good, kind of unique. And they all kind of have those types of things, but I just the way that they show it in this one and Caesar rising to power and boom. Okay, so here we go. This is the fifth one. This is the last of the original series. Look at that, the final chapter. In the incredible Apes saga, the most suspenseful showdown ever filmed as two civilizations battle for the right to inherit what's left of the Earth. That's the thing, too. It's like, because it's an old movie, it doesn't quite come across like that. It's like, it looks like it's probably just 20 guys fighting. But that is the difference between these older ones and the newer ones. It's like the spectacle, But I think these are good in their own way. This one started this off, and there's like a voiceover going on. There's this guy, the lawgiver, and I'm like, what? Who is that? And then it's like, is that Gandalf? From the animated Hobbit movie? And I looked it up, and it is this guy, John Huston. He's Bilbo Baggins, and I can't do it, but he's doing like, dude. There's just that weird feeling when you hear something so familiar, and you're like, wait a second, but it's in a completely new context, because I had never seen this movie, so that was just like a real treat hearing that. This one kind of continues from the last one as far as Caesar, and they've kind of reformatted society to a certain extent because now I think the apes are in charge, but Caesar tries to be like a good, it's not like they're like totalitarian, making the humans do every little thing. I mean, but it is kind of understood that the apes are in charge. They have certain things like an ape can say no to a human, but a human cannot say no to an ape. So there's a human there's man that's teaching them how to write. Something happens and they get mad at each other, and he's like, no, and then they're like, yo, you cannot say no to an ape, and like, you know what I mean, because they don't want the humans to revert back to the old slave master way. So it's just like there's still some of that type of stuff going on. This one is a little weird though, as far as like the timeline. I don't know how long after the last movie this is supposed to be. Caesar is like still alive. So there's other characters that are still alive from the last one, but it's like already like they already have all their clothes, like in the first couple movies where like, okay, the chimpanzees wear green and the gorillas wear purple and then the orangutans wear orange, and it's like they already have all of that. you know oh, and then but the apes are like already smart, and maybe I missed something. It's a lot of movies, I could have missed something, but I just don't know. I don't get the timeline of like, well, how come they're all talking now? you know I think that the reboot series did that a little bit better. Like they, like I said, maybe I missed something, but in the reboot series, they let you know how all these apes became smart, not just the one. Because in this series, it's just Caesar that is an intelligent ape like that. And then you jump to this movie, and it's like they already got all their little different outfits on. It's like they already have their like ape society. They're all talking. All the apes are talking. You know what I mean? They're all like just totally like human level intelligence, and I just don't know if they really said how that happened or like how much time has gone by. You know what I mean? So it's just you really, really got to go with it, and that's kind of like the sign of like a maybe not as good of a movie is when you got to go with it, because suspension of disbelief is like obviously these are all fake. That's not what that means to me. What it means is I'm not having to think about it while the movie's happening. Like you just watch it, and you don't have to just go with it. You do go with it. You don't think about going with it because. But anytime there's stuff like this, the suspension of disbelief, it just means you're not just enjoying the movie. You're going like, what? What is this? What is that? What is it? So this has got a little bit of that. I still like this movie. I like the same guy that does Caesar, and there's just cool characters. And then I guess the McDonald guy, I guess he had a brother, so his brother's in here. But they want to go to the city because Caesar wants to learn about his parents. He wants to find tapes or videos or whatever of them. And then when they go there, there's people. There's survivors, I guess, from humanity has had all these wars and all these things and nuking each other, and I guess these are like these survivors or mutant looking people. So like, oh, okay, these are from that second movie, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. These are, I guess, the ancestors of those people. Because it's like, it could be, you can see how it could become a little cultish and all that. And but those are kind of the bad guys. But there's also Aldo, who is a gorilla. From the later movies, there's a character called Koba, and I believe that he is based on Aldo, because Aldo's like, man, Caesar's not around. We don't gotta do what he said, and he's just like he hates humans, and he just is like, dude, he's insubordinate, and kind of the through line of a lot of these is like the gorillas are more warlike, and the chimpanzees are looked at as, well, I guess the chimpanzees and the orangutans are looked at as, like, I guess, smarter. But just the other theme of the guns being, we want guns. Guns are power. And it's like they're chanting this, because the gorillas understand that, oh, well, if we have that, then we can tell everybody what to do and blah, blah, blah. And there's a guy that guards the guns. There's an orangutan. They try to go, the gorillas that are kind of trying to do a revolt against Caesar. They go there to get the guns, and he's like, you have to tell the guy what you're going to use the guns for. And he said, we will do what we will. And he's just like, do what thou will is the devil's law. And it's like there's these little cool lines in these movies. But Aldo, pretty sure he's the one in this poster right here with the purple, but it's his fault that Caesar's son dies, and that's another thing that kind of reminds me of one of the newer ones. But there's a big climactic battle between those mutant people from the city and Aldo and everything like that, and kind of at the end they decide, almost all after this battle, that they're gonna try and be cool with the humans and try and be more just equal, and because before it was like the apes were kind of in charge. So after the dust settled of this, oh, but that's the other thing. Aldo, because he kills Caesar's son, that's one of their main laws is ape does not kill ape, and that's another thing in the reboot series. And whenever they find out that Aldo has killed Caesar's son, that ape has killed ape, ape has killed ape, and they just chanted at him. And that's what I mean about these older ones. They really will focus in on these certain lines, and they really want you to remember that. I think it's cool, because like I said, they don't really have their CGI and all that crazy stuff back then, so they kind of had to make these lines go really hard. But yeah, so at the end of this, that the lawgiver guy's talking again. I guess it's been 600 years since that battle. He's basically saying that they're waiting for a day that they don't have to have weapons, or they don't have to. They're still waiting for that day to come. And then you look at the statue, and it's crying. The statue of Caesar's crying. So, but there was a little fact about this. Apparently, the year that this one ends, 600 years later, right? That's around the same time as, the first movie, Charlton Heston, and he's going. I guess he's on the spaceship, and he's like, I just wish they learned how to live in peace, blah blah blah. And I guess it's just interesting. Oh, that was around the same time. So even he's out in space, and I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, but it kind of bookends the two movies, I guess. I think I saw a tweet about this or something. Maybe I'll put that on the screen or something. But yeah. So that one, not quite as good, but I still think it's good. Well, I can't quite say full price though. I'm gonna give it a rental. Boom. And that's all the original series. So now we're gonna go to the 2001 remake with Marky Mark. Boom. All right, I was really trying to like this one, but man, I was just thinking like this could have been other people doing this. I think I don't know. Just watching it, I'm going like, why Mark Wahlberg? Why Tim Burton? And I think if those two things were different, I think this wouldn't be. It's not bad. It's just man, it misses the mark for me. It doesn't come together, and it's like going into it. I'm like, I'm seeing the credits. I'm like, it's got like the same logo, kind of like the classic Chris Christopherson, Rick Baker doing the creature effects, and Danny Elfman and doing the music. And I like Tim Burton, you know. And so I'm going like, okay, maybe this isn't as bad as everybody says or whatever. But I think even if you just had somebody else besides Mark Wahlberg, and he's not even like he's not horrible. I just it's not who I think of when I think of like a good actor. You know, he's like a he's Mark Wahlberg in every movie or whatever, right? So I mean, you think of like somebody like I don't know Gary Oldman or whatever. You know, it's like he's so many different people. You know, so Mark Wahlberg is just kind of it's kind of like music. You know, there'll be people that are like they show up on time and they're professional. They know what they're doing, but they're not necessarily like great. you know, but they just show up or whatever. And that sounds like I'm really burying him. It's not. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't really like any Mark Wahlberg movies, but yeah, and I just think something's going on with Tim Burton. The action in this is just crazy. Like the wire work stuff, and I don't know what. It's a deliberate choice that these apes are like jumping like super high, and then like uppercut somebody, and they just fly like 50 feet up in the air. It's not cool. It's not like badass. It's just kind of goofy. It's like, uh, I don't know. It's like why did they decide that? you know, I mean, this is like a few years after the Matrix and like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and so it's like I don't know if they were just like, oh, we gotta use that, but then they don't understand what's cool about it or something. But yeah, just this whole like flying around thing with the action, it just doesn't work for me. But yeah, they got some little lines in here, like the one ape says, "Take your stinking hands off me, damn dirty human." We're like, oh, we're gonna flip it on his head. Another big thing about this that I don't like is it's like a weird romance thing, which the first few movies, Zira, the chimpanzee, she does kiss Charlton Heston's character, and she kisses this other guy, but it's not really like romantic. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but the way they did it then is fine to me because it's kind of like she's like a scientist, and she's kind of like, well, in the grand scheme of the universe, I've come across this human that can talk and blah blah blah, and it's like kind of like I don't know. It makes sense for some reason that maybe they would just do like a little peck, just a little smooch or something. But in this, it's not like that. It's like gross. it's like a weird like flirtatious kind of thing, and it's almost like a weird like love triangle, and it's weird every time. And they keep going back to it, and it's like I don't know, man. It's just weird. And then there's like a weird like almost sex scene with the other apes, and they're just acting crazy. And that's kind of the thing with this is some of these actors are just doing too much. Like Tim Roth is like really good in other stuff, but he's doing too much in this. He's like every time, like the first time you see him, he's already at a 10. And he's like, and he's just always like that, and so he never. Where can you go from there? If you start at 10, you can't go anywhere. And so then he goes to 11. He goes even crazier. And there's one scene where he gets mad and he's bouncing off all the walls, and it's so goofy. And it's not like, and it really sucks because the makeup is really cool. And Tim Roth in particular, he looks very vicious and he looks amazing. But if he did it from a place of like, okay, I'm not really pissed off, and then he gets pissed off, and then he could go back to being, you gotta have somewhere to go with it, and I don't know if, and then Helena Bonham Carter, she's just doing too much. Like she's too creepy. She's just too flirty. It was like what? And I don't know if they're just trying. If they were told like, hey, you got to really overdo it to get through the makeup, which I'm sure is true or to a certain extent, but I just feel like they're doing too much. Oddly enough, though, I do think Paul Giamatti, he's in this. I don't think he does too much because his character is kind of a comedy, wacky kind of guy. I think he does need to be like that. That's the thing. I like certain stuff in this. I mean, the guy that plays Shang Tsung in the original Mortal Kombat, he's one of the gorillas, and I think he does a good job too. He does just enough. Just like the old movies where like it's about the eyes and like you don't have to do so much with it. You know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure Charlton Heston plays an ape in this. He has a gun, and again, there's another thing with the guns. But he said the old gun, it's proof of their power, and because in this time period, I guess this is a completely different universe, right? But they can't even believe that a human would invent something like a gun or whatever. But that's the other thing in this particular world, the humans just talk, like you know and there's no like, because in the original only Charlton Heston can talk or whatever. But man, the lore and the explanation of this is like really dumb. I had to like pause this movie and be like, what? Because the apes like worship this thing called like Kalima or something like that, and then it's like when they finally make their way back to this space station or whatever that's been there forever, like been there for years and years, and there's just like a perfect amount of sand that's like covering up a sign that says "Caution Live Animals," and then they knock off the sand, but it said Kalima because it just. And I'm like, oh really? Like, it's really just that sand that's been on there that people read that, and it's just so silly. It's like, oh my god, and like, why did that perfect amount of sand just cover just those letters for like hundreds of years or whatever? I'm like, what the? And then on this one, they're also like the older movies that I don't think they really explain how the apes got so smart. Because yeah, like this, they go through the little space anomaly thing, and then the space. Mark Wahlberg goes through it, and then there's a space station that follows him, and they have apes on board, and then, yeah, they just don't really explain it. They're just like, oh yeah, the apes are a lot smarter than we thought, and then some other earlier scene, somebody alludes to that, like they're like, well, apes didn't talk because of the way that you treated them, and like we're just supposed to believe that they have like human level like intelligence, but they're just keeping it to themselves or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of weak, you know what I mean? The explanation of all these things. Yeah, it's just the slapsticky kind of action, and then the weird like romance crap with Marky Mark, and yeah, I just think this could have been something, if it would like Tim Burton. We don't really think of him as like an action guy, and this, you know what? This didn't even have to be an action movie. It could have been serious science fiction drama type of thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be. But it seemed like they were going for an action movie, and then that's not what you go to Tim Burton for. Like when you think about the old Batman movies, it's not really that's not really the drawing card of those. It's more like the Tim Burton spookiness and all that stuff. So I don't know. It just, like I said earlier, if they got a different director, different lead, maybe it could have been good. And I know I said I liked all of them, but now I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this one now. This one is pretty weak sauce. So I'm gonna say, watch at your own risk. Yeah, it's weird. It's like boring, but then it's also like too much going on. It's just not too bad. Not actually, no. Yeah, it's bad. All right. So now we're going to go on to the reboot series, which I love all of these. Andy Serkis is one of my heroes. Just his work on Lord of the Rings, but then just he segued that into all these other things, and I just think he's the master. All the motion capture, all that kind of stuff. He's the guy that I think years from now we're gonna look back and he's the guy. He's Caesar. he's Caesar and Gollum. I think there's like two of the best like CGI characters like ever. I mean, I'm trying to think of who else even would even be on the. I mean, Thanos is pretty good, I guess. But yeah, so this one I think came out 2011. I remember being really excited when this came out. CGI still looks really good, I think. And none of these newer ones, it's not like you're going, that looks real. It's just, I just think they've gotten to a point, especially the new ones, with the shading of like, it kind of looks like it's really there. And maybe it doesn't look real, but it looks like it's actually there in the shot with the real people and stuff like that. So it used to not really be like that. It used to be like, oh, it doesn't look real, and it doesn't even look like it's standing next to the person or whatever. But yeah, this one's really good. Kind of, this is what I'm talking about with these other ones. This one explains how the other apes, how these apes became smart. They're trying to develop a drug for Alzheimer's. James Franco, he's the main guy, and his dad is John Lithgow, and he's got Alzheimer's, and so it's like a passion for him. He's trying to find a cure for it. And I think, man, John Lithgow does a really good job. And he would almost like, they would try one drug and then it would like help for a little while, but then it would like almost he would get worse. And then John Lithgow was able to like kind of play these different characters, kind of, where he was just gone. And he didn't know what was going on. But yeah, you got Brian Cox in here. He keeps the ape sanctuary. He's kind of like an evil, nasty guy. And then his helper, the guy that plays Draco Malfoy, and man, that just he really makes you hate him, just mistreating these animals. And but yeah, by the end of this, you're like, man, these apes are justified. Just let them have their own thing. But yeah, these Alzheimer drugs, people, they can make you smarter. And there's like a really cool scene where like John Lithgow is like, he's playing the piano like amazing, and it's like, what? But yeah, basically that's what Caesar, and he becomes smart, and then they continue this research, and so they're doing the research on the other apes, and then Caesar takes those and all his buddies in the sanctuary. He makes all of them smart, and so it kind of makes sense where like even if there was no sequels to this one, you could see how like, okay, if they just keep reproducing, and it could make sense, if it was generations and generations down the line, there's enough of them that are smart like that and can talk and everything. But this one is just kind of getting the ball rolling, and but that's what I like about the reboot series is it isn't really like a Planet of the Apes. It's more like, okay, this is just little skirmishes and like but the understanding that like, okay, thousands and thousands of years from now, yeah, you could see how it could be that, but this is more like intimate story of like Caesar and these smaller kind of groups and smaller factions. But I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go full price on this. Still a good watch. See, this is when it gets hard. Like even putting these next to each other is kind of tough. I'm just gonna gravitate towards the newer ones more. I just because of the. I don't know. I've seen them a lot more. It may be that as I watch, and I do want to watch these older ones more. But as I watch those more, I'll start liking those even more. But these newer, the reboot series, kind of hold a place in my heart. You know what I mean? So, gotta go a little bit higher on that. What's the second one? Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Boom. So this one I didn't see till much later. Just for whatever reason. It's just so much stuff like every year. It's like hard to keep up with everything. I guess this must have been in between 2011 20, somewhere in there, one in the teens. This one, and this is the one where I kind of realized that, oh, these characters do kind of come through all three of these. Like Koba is the character that was in the last one, Rise, and he was one of the smarter apes and stuff like that, and so he becomes kind of like the antagonist in this one because he doesn't trust humans, and kind of like Aldo from the older ones. And so, I think they kind of took from that, and I think that's what I like about these reboot movies is they do take things from the old ones, but it's more like flashes, or like it's like a feeling that they take from it, or it's not so like some movies where they just like wink into the camera like, hey, remember that? Like, look at it. Like, remember this joke? We're gonna say it over and over. You know what I mean? Like every single movie. Like, how many times does Captain America need to go like, I can do this all day, whatever. So the way they do those types of things, I like it because yeah, Koba, he's not the same as Aldo like in every way. He's got a different name and all this different stuff. But Koba has like a cool look. Um, to me, he looks really scary. But Koba, there's a scene where he's like, he almost gets caught by the humans, and he's like pretending to be dumb. I kind of like those parts, like, and I think Caesar in the older movies did that too. He's kind of like pretending to be stupid, and Gary Oldman is in this. It's just funny. Like he's really good, but it's like when you see him do so many different things, like Dracula and the guy from The Professional, and just like these crazy guys, and it's just whenever he plays something like this, where it's just kind of average American white guy, basically, it's like it's not bad. It's just kind of like noticeable, like when he plays like Commissioner Gordon, but it's not a bad thing. It's just to be able to play a generic guy or like that. It's just interesting, Every movie you see him in he's a different guy. But yeah, I remember I kind of didn't want to watch this one because like the main guy I saw Terminator Genesis, and that guy was in it, and I think that movie just made me mad because it was like, oh, John Connor's the bad guy, and it's like, and he was John Connor, and so I don't know if that. I was like, that guy's in it, I don't want to watch that, but obviously, like he does a good job in this. I don't know, it's just like for whatever reason I didn't see it, but I like the whole feud of Caesar and Koba. But it's like I think I like some of the other ones a little bit better. But like I said, I don't. I like a lot of these. I don't really think it's. I think it's gonna be a full price. Just not. I might put it. Conquest. I like the rise of Caesar with his speech at the end. I think that's gonna edge this one out. But I think this. I like this better than these other ones. These other old ones. Okay. I'm just gonna say it right now. This one is my favorite. War for the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, I just watched this one the most. I don't know what it is. This is continuing the Alzheimer drugs becoming a virus that kind of kills humans, and this one shows how it takes away the human's ability to speak, and they have blood, and they like, and this one shows that, and I think that's really cool. Like these reboot movies, they do a lot more work to like make sure that there's no like or less plot holes or logic gaps or anything like that, because it's like, no, look, this disease is still running through the population, and yes, there might be like a tiny percentage that's immune, but I mean humans are really getting wiped out. And then you got Woody Harrelson, and he's probably like the best villain in the whole thing, and it's really intense scenes, and especially at the end, just when he finally succumbs to the thing, and you can see where he hates the apes, and you can see where he's coming from and everything, but it's like, they kill Caesar's son, like kind of like the older movies, and he's just like, all right, bro. Yeah, I love this. The Steve Zahn plays a character called Bad Ape, and he's really funny and comic relief, but also like you really care for him. And the orangutan character, I can't remember his name, but he's been very quiet this whole time. He mostly does the sign language, but in this one he finally kind of talks a little bit. And they meet this little girl. He names her Nova. So Nova was the woman from the first two movies. So that's kind of a nice little one of those little callbacks that's not too annoying to me. I mean, I think that's kind of cool. They just find like a little car thing or something like that, and it's just like, oh, Nova. But yeah, I don't know. This one's just fun to watch for me. And this idea that Woody Harrelson, there's other humans coming because they don't agree with what he's doing. So it's like humans versus humans, and the apes he's enslaved the apes to help build up reinforcements because these other humans are going to come and whatnot. But yeah, I just think like this is the peak of, the final culmination of the Andy Serkis, Caesar story. And yeah, Matt Reeves directed this one. I think the second one too. And he did the Batman. But yeah, I don't know. This was just very intense, and just the CGI acting, kind of like the old ones. I think are great with the makeup and like how you can see their eyes coming through and everything. But these new ones are also great. As far as like Andy Serkis and Steve Zahn and all these guys, like you really like feel it. You feel like Andy Serkis's performance and stuff like that. And I just think this is like final battle of all that kind of stuff. So I think this is, stakes are high and just really rewatchable for me. I think I've watched quite a few times. So I'm gonna go golden ticket. I think I'm gonna put it above the original because it's my list. Boom. Got one more. Uno más película. I don't think I missed any. So this is the newest movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We got this new guy. He's our new main character. I've already forgot. I think his name's Noah. And but they kind of make him look like Caesar a little bit. So it's, a little bit of a continuing his face, a little bit. But this is a cool concept to do for like following up on because the Caesar movies, that's a trilogy. That's done. Has a great ending. Boom. This takes place, I guess, like hundreds of years later. And you got people, I think I heard somebody put it, the audience, we know more than they know about what happened with Caesar and all that. And they know more than we know about the current world. It's kind of like a little bit of that religious kind of thing of like these guys coming in and attacking other apes, and they're going for Caesar. And you're going like, y'all didn't even know about Caesar, because he said, apes together strong, and you're not supposed to kill other apes and all these things, and then you're gonna come in there and like the way people do with Jesus, right? Like they claim to be followers of Jesus, but they're exclude people and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of I like that little commentary there. You know what I mean? You got those guys doing this asshole stuff in the name of Caesar. They don't know anything about it. But us, the audience, we do know. And then you get this other guy, orangutan right here. He believes in the teachings of Caesar too, but he's a little bit off on some of the stuff too, because this woman that they meet, he's going like, "Oh, her name's Nova," and he's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Yeah, they're just all named Nova." He's like, "I don't know why." It's just like a funny little thing, like, oh yeah, they're just, that's what Caesar said. Like that's the teachings of Caesar, is that they're all named Nova. But yeah, there's another little subtle thing that kind of reminds me of the older ones. Is kind of this beach setting that they have. Kind of reminds me of the ending of the first one, and then when these apes attack these other apes, there's like fire, like tree house fires and stuff like that. That kind of reminds me of one of the older ones where they, it's like those little aesthetic things that are callbacks, but you would only notice it if you watched them all in a row like I did. But yeah, this one it's pretty cool, like because you see how like there's these different tribes of the apes, and then there's the ones that Noah's from. They have birds and things like that, and that they train. There's one bird hates him, and then by the end, it does come to him when they sing songs to these birds. And anyway, this was just pretty cool stuff, I think. And it was almost like I was halfway through it going like, okay, I already want a sequel, because it already felt like, oh, are they really going to be able to get where I want them to go with this in just one movie? And by the end, yes, it does end on a cliffhanger. You're going like, oh, okay. And then I look up online, and there is going to be this is the first of a new trilogy. And so I thought that was great news, because I thought this one is like really good. Yeah, just the whole concept of it being so much later that it's kind of like, I almost wish like I kind of wish Star Wars would do that, like they would just, can we just go like a little bit further out, so we just can totally like get away from any of these characters. But And you could do a similar thing where they don't really understand the past, because history is just like the story of the past, and like whoever's still around to tell it, and especially in this kind of world where they don't have like computers or anything like that, it's like all kind of, well, they said that, and they just, it's all like oral tradition or whatever. But yep, let me think. It's kind of hard. It's hard for me to want to put it in golden ticket because it is so recent. So yeah, I think I will probably watch this like a bunch of more times. It, but I don't know if it's golden ticket because it's kind of like that recency bias thing. It's like, do I really think it's that good, or is it? Well, I'm gonna do full price, but I'm gonna do it at the top, the tippy top of the full price. Boom, ta-da! So that's my list. First place we got War for the Planet of the Apes, and last place we got the Tim Burton, cause he stinks. But yeah, I think that's about it for today, and I guess I'll get starting watching on another franchise so I could rank that for you. So that's it.